Did you ever wish your high school curriculum included more financial education? Today on the podcast, we're going to talk with a student who took that desire all the way to the state Congress. Let's get into it. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Dollars and Cents, Hapo Community Credit Union's Financial Literacy Podcast. Today, we are welcoming Mary Lou back into the podcast studio. Welcome back, Mary Lou, as well as Ashwin. We're going to be talking a little bit about advocacy and some very specific stories of some time that you spent on Capitol Hill in Washington doing some advocacy for financial literacy and financial education. Ashwin, welcome, and Mary Lou, welcome back.
It's great to be here. Thank you, Scott and Mary Lou, for the invite.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing nowadays, and then we'll dive into the advocacy portion of things.
Well, I finished my first year at Berkeley just now, and I've been busy lately as chair of the All Teens Financial Academy, our nonprofit organization that helped in the whole advocacy component for financial literacy, and my institutionally backed company that I started in the Bay that now helps hotels train their staff in hours instead of weeks. And it's been an incredible journey so far. I'm actually heading back to the Bay next Saturday. There's this conference, it's called the YC AI Startup School, that's inviting the top student AI founders globally. It's going to have speakers like Elon Musk, Sam Altman,
very cool.
Satya Nadella, and it's just surreal, the opportunities from being a small town student here to now in the Bay Area at Berkeley. It's changed my life, and I'm so grateful for the Tri-Cities community for guiding me. Right.
Excellent. So that's a whole topic that we might want to dive into at some point in time. The training aspect, the feature that you're bringing out, I'm sure is a huge financial benefit for companies out there. If you can get your training knocked down to a certain amount of time, that's amazing type of work. And you're using AI to leverage that?
Yeah, AI microlearning.
Very cool. All right. So what we really were bringing you in for, as much as I want to dive into that because the AI thing is super fun and cool, is the financial education advocacy work that you did over the past couple of years here in the state of Washington. And before we got started on the podcast, you mentioned that you are still at that, doing some stuff with that advocacy. So walk us through kind of the basics of what it is that you're doing for the advocacy for financial education.
Yeah, I mean, as now chair, I've transitioned leadership to my mentee Luke, who's in California, and then there's Parker as well, who's here in the Tri-Cities as the CFO. The basics of what I'm continuing to stay involved with, as I'm really caught up with so many other things. I love the organization and have left it in very trusted hands.
Okay.
What I continue to do is, like earlier this year, I did at Representative Rood's request testify again in the House, and I'm more now there. If Luke or any of the leadership there has questions, then I'm always there. It's actually funny, they now are doing so well, they rarely like ever call me, so I'll give a call every so often. I'll go like, oh, how's everything? You know, sometimes I'm wanting to hear a problem.
Oh yeah.
But no, they're just continuing to get more support. I think they just finished up there's a university collaboration that was meant to decrease recidivism. And for those viewers who don't know what recidivism is when people go to jail and then they then go back into jail. So we're specifically like helping with juvenile recidivism and wanting to reduce that. So that's what we've been doing, like helping offer personalized mentorship, and this is in Maryland.
Okay.
And we're continuing to keep our programs worldwide for students and being this free, inclusive platform to all.
Okay. So you mentioned that the organization that you've got locally that you've left in good hands that you still really want to be part of, because honestly, it is hard to walk away from something that you put heart and soul into.
Absolutely.
What's the name of that organization?
It used to be the Ashwin Teen Financial Academy. It's now All Teens Financial Academy.
Okay.
And I absolutely agree with you. It's like, I think about how this just started out with the blog in COVID, and now it went to a club, to then expanding to be this like teen financial online academy, and it's just great. It really warms my heart to see how much of a movement we are and what we do for teens daily.
I do believe that now that you're mentioning the name of this and how it started with a blog, that I remember when that came through, you worked with Candy Bowlesby on that one, who was previously the director of our financial education department, who's now with our community engagement group. And she used to be one of the hosts here on the podcast. She's been a guest a couple of times.
Wonderful.
Love Candy. Fantastic work. I remember now hearing about the blog and the work that you were doing, and her getting involved with that. Talk to us about kind of that community connection that you got with HAPO.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be frank, Scott, it's Mary Lou's wonderful message and Candy and then Stephanie's support that really made me say yes to the podcast. Is I tend to, like, I get a lot of invites for things like this, but I really value the contributions that HAPO has made to our efforts. As I remember in 2023 when I was at a Mod Pizza, and then there was I think the guy's name was Zach, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And so he was standing in front of the line, and I love talking to people. It's just,
it makes podcast a great scenario.
Exactly. I think that it's amazing how interconnected we are, and it's so important to just make new friends wherever. And so I just I compliment his shirt, and then he mentions he's at HAPO, and then I speak about what we're doing with the ATFA's efforts, and then it turns out to be this really productive conversation where Zach then connects us to that specific finance education team, and that's when I get connected to Candy, and then we're in this email thread, and then she meets with my mom and I, because at the time I'm under 18, so she says that there has to be an adult at the call. So and then I have this whole presentation, and then it goes really well, and they offer guest speaker resources, and then we've used those services at chapters like the Richland chapter, and it's one of the many reasons why I'm so grateful to this community. There's companies like HAPO, the GISA, HFG Trust that have supported us throughout.
And when you started this, you weren't expecting it to become quite the monster that it is.
No, not by any means. I didn't expect our organization to be on the Seattle Times and things like that. It's just, I think about it. It's amazing what happens when something means so much to you, and you give your heart and soul towards it, and you make it your purpose, and you're willing to sacrifice, free time, all these things. It's an obsession. Yeah. And all I cared about was making as much impact as possible. All I saw was that growing up, my parents, immigrants from India, seeing how we started out in an apartment in Connecticut to now having the businesses that we do, to having the house and everything else that we do, it's all because of amazing financial habits. And I recognize at a very early age, not many people got the privilege of, their dad teaching them about stocks when they were 8 years old, their mom being their first business school teacher. And when the time came in middle school, when 8th grade, this was unfortunately a few months before COVID, when you were thinking about the class registration, I saw requirements for everything from science to English to math. There was no financial literacy requirement, which is just, it's really an injustice, as every single one of us deals with money on a daily basis.
Oh, yeah.
Yet, many of us are brought up only learning that we need money to survive rather than learning how to manage money to thrive. And that's what gave me the inklings to start a blog, because I recognized kids, we're asking you questions about financial literacy, as they thought my business stuff and my understanding of stocks was so cool. And I was like, okay, how can I help? And this led me to just start to think. That question became and led to action when, unfortunately, the COVID pandemic hit. And then I was given all this free time. I was like, let me take my knowledge and put it into teenage terms.
That, I think, was the number one thing when it came through that resonated with me, was like, yeah, I can be on this podcast and talk about some of these things, but is it going to reach that audience?
100%. And I think just by starting there and then seeing all like my friends like support it, and then start to think, okay, what if I make a high school curriculum, like pilot a chapter at Southridge, my high school, that let's see what happens. And then COVID took a long time, unfortunately.
Yep.
And then February of 2022, that's when the mask mandates were starting to get lifted off. That's when I was like, this is the perfect time to start the club. And within a few months, we became the biggest student-led club in the entire school. And that's when I was like, okay, it was actually as a sophomore when seniors were asking me like, okay, we're graduating, how can we continue our financial education? Oh, wow. And this is really funny. Like, if you look at Khan Academy, you'll see today that they have like financial literacy courses. But back in 2022, like around that June range, they had nothing. That's when I saw like, okay, Khan Academy does the educational focus. Let's build like the Khan Academy for financial education.
Okay.
And that's
actually a really cool fact, because we're what, 3 years beyond that time frame at this point in time.
Agreed. Yeah.
So 3 years ago they had nothing. Now looking at it in the registrations, there's financial education and literacy that's out there, as well as a desire from the students to get into these classes, to learn these things. So one of the things that I've mentioned once or twice before on the podcast is what are some of the things that you see on social media where people are saying, well, I wish they would have taught me that in high school. Why didn't they teach me that in high school? And I mentioned, now this might date myself a little bit more. When I went to high school, we did actually have a consumer economics course. It wasn't quite to the point of stocks and understanding investing and those type of things, but it was balancing a checkbook. It was managing your funds. It was some of those items. And I was always kind of shocked when I started to hear, oh, wait, I don't think that's there anymore. I was like, while at the time I really wasn't that excited about having to go to class, which should shock everybody. It is things that I still remember doing while we were there. We actually had a stock market game that was a statewide stock market game where high school students would submit their team and virtually buy stock, and you'd be like, okay, I'm going to purchase X amount of dollars worth of American Airlines stock, and you're tracking it through the course of the semester, and it was ranking people or teams of kids across the state of Washington for how well you were doing.
That's incredible.
And I think that type of hands-on thing, I remember it, and that was an untold number of years ago that I was in high school, and I still remember that event to this day. I remember specifically, it wasn't American Airlines, it was TWA, which doesn't exist anymore. That company is gone now, but I made a killing on TWA stock in that particular class.
Yeah, that's great. This reminds me, I'll add a social media question that you've asked too. That in our turnkey package for the chapter program, we do this best brokers, and then they have this like app that's really good that we use in our chapters, and we make a whole competition out of it. That is a stock simulator, just as you mentioned. Wow. and that's been really effective in teaching them about the market. Like, it's funny, I think it starts out at 15,000. Okay. And then so people will try it even has crypto on it too. And then I remember when we did this, we did the stock market unit at the Southridge chapter, the kids put money into Bitcoin. They thought Bitcoin and Ethereum was gonna skyrocket, and then those ended up becoming the biggest losers at the very end. Yep. And it taught them a lesson that I didn't think crypto was just as easy as it goes up. It crashes just as easily too. And I was like, well, and this is why we do what we do, because we want you to realize this before it's your own money. Exactly. and actually, I do think that there are things that people see on social media that are really useful for them to go oh, I wish we learned this when we were younger. Oh, yeah. The credit score, I think, is one of the most critical aspects, especially when you think about how much of a role it has to do with your loans, your ability to get a house and everything that comes with it, even getting your credit card approved, and then even aspects like the value of bonds, and then investing in the S&P, right? Like ETFs, all these things that are really diversified investments that help like secure these compounding returns. And then on the other side of things, there's also a lot of things that people don't recognize. Like I do, one thing we really emphasize in our curriculum is, especially in the stock market unit, is that you'll like see these people promote this crypto coin or the specific stock. But I said, find me a video that shows while they're promoting it what price they bought it at.
Yep.
Find me a video. And till this day, no one's found me a video that shows what price they bought it at. And I think that's a really bad problem. As if you study like during these like recessions and then all these like really moments of market turmoil, it's those that are relying on others, on their stock decisions, the ones to sell. Because let's say like you buy something based on someone else's like advice, and then you see it going to like plunging towards zero, your first instinct is gonna go like, I need to run away from this, like sell. But the rich and wealthy, what they do is they made the decisions recognizing I bought it at this price. I know it was a good price based on my own rationale, and they're going to go like, I'm gonna keep it, and then probably buy even more of it, because it's like Warren Buffett's quote. He goes like, be fearful when others are greedy, and when others are greedy, like be fearful. Yeah. And then so keeping that mindset that it's like when others are fearful, then be greedy. Yes, that's the complete quote.
You're talking about Buffett, and everything you're saying, like I agree, because I've been reading this book of Charlie Munger,
The Almanac.
I think it's I don't know which one it is. I think it might be like his autobiography, but he did mention that
exactly,
and holding on for the long term, and I think that's so important that you guys are saying that, like, hey, look, you can buy stocks, but that when you do look at the market trends, like they bought what with a consideration of what someone else did. They didn't do their due diligence.
100%.
And I think that's really important, because for me, like I'm very risk adverse. Like I'd rather put my money in something that will compound and invest in the long term, you know? So when it comes to stocks, I kind of see it as gambling, but like, it just depends if you're like going more for like a business, right? Like you're investing in that business and keeping it long term, because it will compound. But as a kid, like it's so impressive that even like you formed a chapter when you were in high school. Like I just knew what a chapter was like 2 or 3 years ago. So it's like so impressive that you know all of that and that you have this organization.
Oh, thank you.
And even how I met him was through LinkedIn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I saw an article of you at the Capitol, and I was like, wow, like that was around the time where I started getting more into like credit union advocacy. Oh, wow. And I went to the Capitol 2 years in a row, and I think it was the first time that I had gone. I was like, wow, that is such an impressive kid. Like,
thank you.
I wish I would have known like half of the things you knew when you were in high school. Which
kind of brings us right back to the advocacy side of things. Yeah. Being able to promote this financial education at the Capitol to get it back into curriculum, or to bring even more to curriculum. Because like I said, we had a minor bit of a thing back in my day. But bringing all of this, the information that the other students are requesting that they want, and making it become part of the curriculum, because it will help everybody in the long run that gets a chance to really learn these things. And you're not going to have every student come out of there becoming a self-made millionaire out of this, but it's obviously like this information can't hurt. Yeah,
100%.
You do what you want to do with it.
So talk to us a little bit about the time at the Capitol that both of you had doing this, and what the process was that you've been through to try and promote that curriculum change in the state of Washington.
Yeah, happy to answer that. And once again, like, thank you for your kind words about the chapter. And I'd like to add on to that. It's, yes, like, I've put my blood, sweat, and tears towards it, but there's been so many people that have helped. I think about our sponsors, our donors, our community, our team.
Oh, yeah.
It's really a collective effort. I just am grateful that we're all this massive ship that's going towards the right direction, and it takes all the parts of the ship to keep us going.
Oh, yeah.
And then with this advocacy, it comes into exact play, as nothing can get done without everyone's collective support. And I do want to like say this up front. Initially, I never had any goals of going to the state. I was just focused on my own district. Really,
Yeah.
that was the goal from 8th grade. And this, to understand how this all started, it was my junior year. And in my junior year, this is really, I really think about this quote all the time, especially in this moment. It's like, luck happens when like preparation meets opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognized that it was like this, it was spring of that 2023, like junior year. And all my teachers were like now like talking about final projects. And I was like, okay, I had visited some like colleges, and I was like thinking, okay, like what can I've now made these professor contacts, like what's something cool I could do alongside impactful. And that's when I was like, I've always wanted to do a financial literacy study. And this is what led me to do a survey. I was like, okay, I see financial literacy as a clear problem, but oftentimes you can have an opinion, but it's so important to, if you want to take action on the opinion, to also validate it. So I made this survey, and I worked with this professor at the University of Pennsylvania, Warden, and also an advisor of the financial chapter, Mr. Razo. So it was this Professor Shivagupta and then Mr. Razo. And then in essence, the study like took questions from there's a specific National Financial Literacy Association, and from there we came up with this plan to dispense the study. And then this study, we got 324 participants.
Okay.
For off the record, from what we know from the history, this is actually this was the largest study ever conducted in Southridge's student-led survey study.
Nice.
Yes, and it was so amazing to see the response, as we had the biggest club in the entire school, so that helped. And
Was there that many students, 300 in the club?
By the time, like, I don't remember the exact time then, but when I was finishing my senior, we had like 320 plus members.
That is
crazy.
lot.
And you should see our like yearbook photo. It's crazy.
But how would you have that many people in one spot? Would you guys have to like go to the gym?
We had to evaluate different solutions, and thankfully so to be a member you had to go to at least one meeting, and so we would have like 60, 70 plus like in a room, and people would be standing. It was hectic. It was hectic for sure. But I think the hecticness just brought more attention to the club, so made it even like a bigger community.
Like everybody's in the club. You've got to join.
Exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah, if you don't join the club, you're not cool.
It's just for me, it's just so crazy to like hear this, like a club being so popular for financial literacy.
Hey,
you know?
Hey.
Honestly speaking, when you're looking at it, which of the clubs are really going to pay off in the long run?
Yeah.
Pun totally intended.
And I want to hear the success stories of some of the students.
I would love to. We can after this advocacy story, we can go into that. So basically we have this huge study, and then I synthesize all the data. I think we find out that over 70% of students feel like underprepared or developing preparedness, and that was just like so saddening to hear, especially as the composition of the 324 students was split around 25% per grade level. And that's when I took the 50 plus pages of data with Mr. Rosu and that professor from UPenn and got together these other collaborators, and then we synthesized it into a 9-page executive summary report.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, we can publish this, and then this is what I need to show to the district how big of a problem this is. As I had seen plenty of students voice out complaints to the district, but I was like, okay, if I was in the district's shoes, students are always complaining about something.
Yeah.
But how many of the students actually take action on their complaints and show that this means something meaningful to them? Because anyone can complain.
Yeah.
But who takes action? And I was like, if I take action, I put myself in a different scope. So maybe this will definitely make them much more reciprocative to what I have to say.
Yeah. I think also bringing the professor and the advisor in on this means that this isn't just a couple of high school kids that are complaining about a thing and they wrote an essay to bring me. This is a published paper.
Agreed. Yeah.
With the backing of professors at a known university and et cetera. Yeah, I think that you've structured this thing in a way that it can't be ignored.
Exactly. And at the point I was office assistant my junior year, and I had become really good friends with the principal, Mr. Williamson. I would go to his office so frequently just because I needed a lot of support my junior year. As the chapter was going to new heights at Southridge, and then that was when the organization was being established, and that was a huge growth period for us. So having Mr. Williamson, if you're watching this, so grateful for you. I truly he was there for just a year. He was the assistant superintendent.
Okay.
And because they couldn't find a principal for Southridge, he came as a principal, and it was really amazing to get all his insights. And when he saw the study and everything else, he actually facilitated a meeting with Dr. Pierce, the superintendent of the district. And I actually had met her earlier thanks to my best friend's mom worked at the district, and my best friend was Hamza was a co-founder of this.
Okay.
So anyways, it was a nice get together again. And I mentioned the study, and then Dr. Pierce was like, okay, in the June board meeting, I can give you 3 minutes. I was like, thank you so much. I can
take advantage of 3 minutes.
Anything is great.
Yep.
And then, so June, lo and behold, the day came, and I printed out I think it was 9 copies of the 9-page paper, and I'd kept all of this in my folder. And when my name got called out, I then went to each of the board of directors and then the assistant too, and I gave the 9-page copy to each of them. And it didn't matter whether they read it or not. That paper signified that this is more than just a student saying something. And I went up and I gave my presentation. It was 3 minutes. I practiced and I made sure it was on that timeline. Awesome. And then they asked questions, and it ended up being over 19 minutes. So it was really great. And at the end, everyone was applauding. It was like a movie moment.
Very cool.
And that's when Mr. Mabry, who was a board director at the time, and I'm not sure if he still is. He served as a position at one of the state level associations, and he was like, your type of advocacy, your type of dedication to this is exactly what the state needs. So he was like, when you feel ready, then let me know and I can help you go to the state level. And then I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready because I was thinking at the district level, and then it took Mr. Mabry to make my eyes think even bigger.
Yep.
So that's also a lesson too. Sometimes you can be really focused on an aspect and don't realize that there's a much more bigger way to solve the problem. I was
going to say stepping stones from in the school out to the survey, to the paper, to the district. Now from the district being able to get that introduction out at the state level, and now bringing this advocacy to the entire state.
Yeah, and I'm going into deep detail. For any viewers watching, I'm showing that my parents are immigrants from India. I don't have like any political connections or anything like that. These are the steps of how someone like who doesn't have any connections can take an approach of being proactive. And
just from taking action and focusing on impact.
100%. And then I took whatever, I got his email and I got his number, and then Mr. Mabry, and then we continued to stay in touch. And then it was in August, Mr. Connors, who was also a board of director.
Okay.
His wife is April Connors.
Yeah.
The rep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He emailed me, and then he was like, let's go for a coffee at it's the Starbucks by the Grays 395. And on Kennewick, it's the before the highway to Pasco, right? And then that's when Representative Connors comes, and we have this great discussion, and then that leads for I help in the research of like seeing similar bills, and then we have Representative Connors facilitates the meeting with Representative Rood, and then I share exactly what I've done so far, and I mention the research, and then that's when the representative was like, I want to put like, I'm sure he was thinking about this already, and then this was also like an addition, and then this led to us to collaborate with one another. I was under his mentorship, and then getting to learn from him and getting to perform my own duties on the side as this all like started to really accelerate. I went to the Capitol many times, including meeting Superintendent Rectal, for anyone who doesn't know Superintendent Rectal, he's the chief state school superintendent. Yep. And it was such a thrilling period. I will say it was very taxing too, though. I think I had something like 200 plus absences, like school, like class absences. But thankfully, like I was very communicative with my school, the superintendent district, they gave me so much support throughout.
I was going to say, a lot of people, I believe, would see this as, hey, this is an opportunity. Yeah. As you mentioned, luck is when work and opportunity meet.
Preparation meets opportunity. Yeah, exactly.
And luckily, it sounds like you were an absolutely horrible student. By that, I mean, my guess is you put in a lot of work on more than just this.
Agreed.
And I have found that most teachers are very much willing to be like, yeah, we know that you're going to do the work, that you're going to put in the work. Yeah. If you're not here to do the work, that doesn't mean you're not going to.
Yeah.
You've earned the respect of those professors, those teachers. And yeah, I feel like there's a lot of situations where, yeah, this is an opportunity. Don't skip this opportunity because we've got a quiz in geometry. Go take this to the state, do that work. And it's great to be able to see all of the people and the steps along the way that help, again, not just spur you on, but introduce you to the people that will continue to drive this as it moves up the chain.
100%. And I think I met with like 250 plus education officials during that period of time. And I mean, I took whatever opportunities there was.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I remember I was the treasurer of my entire school, ASB, and they had this conference where like all these officials are their education officials. I can't remember the exact conference name off the top of my head, but it was facilitated through the schools, and I knew it was a huge opportunity. And I spoke. I was sitting there. It was very long, but the host, I think her name Miss King. Yes.
Okay.
And she's like going through this whole thing, and then it's lunchtime, and then I go like, what can I do? Like, how can I make an impression on all these education officials? And then I go to her and I go like, look, I'm working with these representatives. This is my nonprofit organization. Is there any chance you could give me 2 minutes? And then she ends up and to be fair, like, because I'm with my school administration at the time, they didn't know that I did this. So at the very end, I'm given 2 minutes, and everyone's going like, "What is going on here?" And I go, and it was after all of that. Then people were reached out, and it was also like a big moment of support too. And then like they were a little bit at first they were initially not so happy with me because they were like, you could have asked us first. But I also thought like, hey, it's always like better to ask for forgiveness than permission. And it was like my intention was pure. And then later on it was like, oh, it was all good. They were happy that, you know, I'm continuing to represent Southridge. So
there was an opportunity there, and I didn't have the chance to go ask your permission to take this opportunity to help further this cause that I've got.
Yeah, and in the end, if it was Miss King would have said no, if it was a problem, right? So I think that a lot of people overthink, like when in reality you just listen to your instinct, you listen to your inner voice, and it guides you right.
So how did you get that so early? Like that inner voice and like the courage to do, because like, were you ever scared or you were just so,
of course I was scared.
Okay. So how would you get the courage to be like, you know what, this is outside of what like you want to do, but like how did you allow your inner voice to lead you in that way at such a young age and still?
I can give a simple answer. I could give a deeper answer, and I guess I'll give a deeper answer. In middle, like I'd say that I learned how to really love my inner voice when in middle school. Like yes, I'm very outspoken now. I testify. I speak in front of loud crowds. But there was a time where I had no self confidence. I was actually pretty shy. Like in middle school, and I would get teased quite a bit too. I was the only Indian kid in my grade, and it was about, and I always wanted to fit in so badly.
Okay.
I realized like, I don't want to go too deep into the details, but every time I tried to fit in, it never worked. Never, like if I ever was trying to fit in, I'd always get teased even more, and then it was also part of like my whole mind, as I had thought that I like needed to become a doctor because of like a bit of family pressure and everything else. Like my mom's like dream, and then my dad was a doctor too.
Okay.
And then in 8th grade, I was not happy with myself. Because I was living life on everyone else's terms. I had shut down that like inner spirit, like I tuned that voice out completely.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, what really did like make me happy? It was like learning about finance, like making an impact on others. And that bog, like that's why ATFA means so much to me. It wasn't just that, oh, like the members of ATFA needed me. I also needed them. Because it's what gave me the confidence to then lead life on my own terms and like bring that inner voice out. As during the pandemic, one of the worst times for many people, it was my time to rebuild myself, figure out what I wanted, and it was a lot of deep reflection, and that deep reflection allowed me to prioritize what I wanted to do, be open with my parents that I don't want to pursue medicine, and I made a promise that I was like, I will become known for what I do, and I don't know exactly what I need to do, but I promised my mom I wouldn't be like, because her convention, like when I said I want to pursue business, she saw that a lot of like kids who go into business, they kind of mess around in college and everything else, and she didn't want that to happen to me. So she said that, look, if you want to go towards this direction, then you have to promise me this, that pursue it, but become known for what you do. And I promised my mom. And from there, I had no idea what to do.
It sounds like the promise is basically, I'm not going to fit in, I'm going to stand out.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I made so, that flipped a switch inside of me. And I'm so grateful to my mother for making me do that. As I think about how, like I say this to others, right? Like parents should support the dreams, but should also like push them to do the best they can for those dreams. Because if you want something, then you need to show that you actually want it. Mm-hmm. Too many people like say, "Oh, I want this," but then don't do anything.
Don't put in the effort to go get it.
And I really do believe that had I not made that promise, I probably wouldn't be in this room today. I wouldn't. And that's what makes doing things like that pretty easy. As I remember how things used to be, and deep confession, I actually get pretty scared when I'm doing a lot of the things that everyone else is doing. And it's not that I like to, it's just, it's a wound like from like middle school. I know that it's a bit, it should be years ago and I should like completely let it go, but like the conscious is like your subconscious is kind of still there, and I've learned how to get better control over that, and it makes things like I cold emailed Mark Cuban, responded to me, and then Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple, also said
you're not afraid to shoot your shot.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Hey, and that's how you make those connections.
Seriously, I've been doing the same thing, and it's crazy what, like, everything that you're saying, like, listening to my inner voice, I didn't learn that until just a couple years ago. And
makes a big difference.
It does. It makes a huge difference. And I look at myself like I'm a mom of two. I'm a wife. I have a lot of bills. I have a career. I'm going back to school right now. I'm really involved in advocacy.
Let's go.
We're having a credit union chapter in Eastern Washington. And when you mentioned chapter and you were in high school, I'm like, I didn't know what a chapter was just a few years ago.
It's never too late to learn new things.
Exactly. Yeah. But I dove into that and I signed up. I signed up for that at in our HAPO subcommittee for advocacy. I didn't know what it was, and here we are a couple years later, and we're gonna make it happen.
There you go. Listen to that inner voice.
Yes, like and that's why like I wanted to bring you here, because I feel like there's so many young people and adults that they don't realize like how tangible these things are, these dreams, these, like, when you do focus more on impact, when you focus on your community and you do the things that you're scared of. Like, you know, I never thought that I would have like 2 kids. Like, I know, you know, you think in your mind, like, yeah, I want to have a family, I want to have this, but then like, I had my first daughter and and then bam, I got pregnant again, and I was terrified. I was so terrified, but it's like, I became this new person, and then my son was so easy, and he's an angel. His name's Angelo, but he really is like an angel, and he gave me the strength. Like, I can do anything, and it's like meeting all these new people, and like it's so cool to see, you know, that there's young people or just people in general that are just not afraid to, or they are afraid, but they still do it anyways.
Yep.
Do it afraid, and then you meet amazing people along the way. So.
All right. Well, I believe we're coming close to our conclusion here. So first off, thanks, Mom, for pushing Ashwin to be who he is. It's fantastic to get to meet you today. Before we sign off, do you guys have any last thoughts that you want to share with people listening?
Yeah. All I want to say is, with the first, thank you so much for the invite. And then quickly to finish up the advocacy story, right? Then like January, the time came to testify in the Washington State House, and because we got to the part with the Representative Connors, and once I testified, it was amazing how much your passion, when you reflect your passion to others, how much people pick up on it. As it was. After that testimony, it was this quote that I remember how it got picked up by the Seattle Times that I had said during my testimony, which was like, most of us are brought up understanding that we need money to survive, but not learning how to manage money to thrive. And that led to so much attention from newspapers that helped boost the collective impact and awareness of the bill to others that only continued to support us. And then with the bill, I'm going to do this really concisely as we're wrapping up. It was really saddening when the bill ultimately, despite the House and Senate both passing it, it was the Senate that took out a key amendment that made the bill, which was the prerequisite, the graduation prerequisite. And that prerequisite being taken out led to the House to refuse to concede. And then they tried to arrange a conference committee, but then the Senate shut it down. And then the bill died completely.
Okay.
But the lesson that's important here is I was very down about it, but we're back again this year. And we're going to continue to keep going until we make this a privilege to all students statewide. And here, even in California, one of the big focuses of the All Teens Financial Academy, ATFA, academy.org, is we are not only focusing on Washington State, but ensuring that financial literacy is taught to all students nationwide and then globally.
Excellent. Honestly, that is 100% something that I love to hear. I think that this is important information for everybody out there to learn and have an opportunity to understand these things. And it can, in my opinion, absolutely close that wealth gap that seems to exist out there. Give people the information and the knowledge that they need to thrive out there. All right. Well, Ashwin, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been an absolute pleasure listening to your journey when you did it. The motivational aspect of this has been impressive. Obviously, Mary Lou, thank you for bringing Ashwin in with us today and getting us to invite him on. This has been amazing. And it's nice to see that
yes to us.
Even,
of course.
Even in this room,
for supporting our organization.
The motivation and impact that you've had literally just at this table.
Yeah.
Thank you guys very much.
Appreciate the time.
And for everybody out there listening and watching, this has been Dollars and Cents, Hapo Community Credit Union's Financial Literacy Podcast. Until next time.